Okay, that takes us then to the agenda, new business number 1.
Thank you. I have a resolution to approve payment to Maslin Plaque Company for custom letterings for 2855 Easton Street.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution to approve payment to Wood Electric, Inc. for the electric hookup for the new township sign.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that's the end of new business.
Thank you. That takes us to the sheriff's report. Captain Carver.
Good evening. Before you the monthly report for August, 1,066 calls for service, a 13% increase from last year, 79 crashes, 15 injury crashes, 88% increase from last year, 60 alarms, 121 traffic stops, 131 citations, 48 arrests, 80 security checks and vacation checks. For the detective's report, 11 cases were assigned and closed 3 thefts, 2 breaking and entering, and an identity theft. We also have the charts comparing year to year. Significantly busier this August compared to last August.
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
Nope. Not at all. Thanks. Okay, that now takes us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in an amount of $483,216.62.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved. It's
Second.
been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second. Sorry.
No, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report.
No questions here.
Nope, none. Okay, number 5, Tom?
Fiscal Officer number 5 is the investment report.
Anybody has anything specific for Tom? See him later. Number 6,
Number 6 is a liquor license transfer request to Spirit Brothers LLC, DBA Majority's Drive-Through, located at 4321 Cleveland Avenue Northwest, Plain Township, Ohio 44709.
Brian, any concerns just with the transfer, given it's the same location?
No, we've had a handful of calls at that location, but nothing significant.
Okay.
okay, so
Let it move
Yep.
forward. No need
we'll
to sit
move
on
forward.
Okay. Fiscal Officer number 7 is a resolution to authorize the release of insurance proceeds being retained for a loss caused by fire on March 22, 2018 at 4507 Harrison Avenue, Northwest, Canton, Ohio 44709 in the amount of $6,000. Check being payable to Premier Homes Incorporated, mailed to Premier Homes as authorized by Fire Chief Charles Schallenberger.
it. So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 8 is a resolution to authorize the following transfer of funds.
I will move on fiscal officer number 8.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 9A is a resolution to increase the yearly salary of the Finance Director to 70.
I'll move on 9A
And-
and 9B.
I'll second 9A and 9B. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? We've been working on this for a while now, so
Yeah.
good job. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the fiscal officer.
Thanks,
report.
Tom. That takes us to the administrator, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to amend Resolution 20-427 from an OTOS fund to a UAN fund number.
So moved.
Second's been moved and second, just housekeeping.
Yes.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution to amend a resolution to correct the fire fund number.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to accept the attached agreement with Planet Technologies for our Office 365.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution to hire Wood and Bricks LLC for the Arch at Legacy Park.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Again, something else that's been in the
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, we've been,
Actually, since the start of this.
yeah,
Yeah, it's separate from the amphitheater project,
yeah,
but has been in the works for some time.
which, you know, because of placement and all that kind of stuff, we wanted to wait and see how this whole thing was going to
Yeah.
unfold. So definitely it's going to be nice. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution for payment to Everbridge Inc. for our Nixle Alert platform.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
The last item is a resolution to purchase Shield 15 radar speed displays from All Traffic Solutions, Inc. This is for 3 of them.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
Just
This-
to clarify, the sheriff's deputy, Lieutenant Carver's got him on, or Captain Carver's got him on the back wall there. So,
And they're portable. We have 3 of them, 1 for each quadrant in the township. The sheriff's office will deploy them. Captain Carver, do you want to give us a little information about the use and what they can do for us?
Sure, so the sheriff had purchased a few of these earlier this year. We've been using it, share them among the 13 townships in the county, so it's obviously will be a lengthy period of time between where they get deployed, but we've had good success with them as far as visibility in neighborhoods and some speed deterrent effect. They also record some data, providing a couple of reports to look at, but it helps us see with what average speeds, times of day when traffic's heaviest, times of day when speeds are the highest. It helps us try to better deploy our resources when they're available. They're very portable. As you can see, it's a small item that fits in this nice bag. It's easy for deputies to deploy. They've got rechargeable batteries in them, and so our hope will be able to have a little more visibility throughout the township, having some owned by the township.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else? Thanks, Captain. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that's the end of the
Thanks,
administrator
Lisa. That
report.
takes us to the Fire Department Chief Schallenberger.
Thank you. Item number 1 is our monthly report.
Good job on those smoke detectors.
Yeah, thanks. Your
That,
fire prevention's doing
Yeah.
a good job keeping up. We're putting a lot of them up.
excellent. Any specific questions that you have for the chief? See him afterwards. Number 2.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 is a purchase, resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees for purchase and payment for mattresses from Northeast Factory Direct.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Mattresses are typical of fire department dorm life. So it's, and they happen to be a township business now.
Yeah, we were able to, we have a
job.
now and get some furniture and stuff.
Yeah. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, item number 3 is a resolution to amend Resolution 23118 due to the name change from Truck Sales to Hill International Trucks.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. What's the delivery on this? Unknown.
Yeah.
That's the magic question.
Probably 9 months to a year still.
Jeez. All right, anything else? Supply chains. Roll call,
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
yes.
And item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township trustees to authorize purchase of payment to CFS inspections for testing of ground and aerial ladder trucks, not to exceed $4,000.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call,
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
yes.
That concludes fire
All right,
department.
Chuck, thanks. That takes us to road, JP.
Thank you. Road item number 1 is our monthly report. Crew had another busy month, a lot of milling.
600 and some?
Yeah, 617 work orders there. A lot of replacing. We're hitting those signs pretty hard per the retro reflectivity program. We're also doing a lot of mill and fill there before the weather
Yeah.
breaks. So
I'm noticing street signs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely looking a lot better. Okay, any specific questions for JP? See him afterwards. Next, number 2.
road item number 2 is a resolution to authorize purchase and payment to Hill International Dump Truck for the replacement parts on dump truck number 2.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call,
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
yes.
Thank you. Road item number 3 is a resolution to authorize a blanket purchase order to various vendors for purchase of equipment and materials to upgrade our current liquid de-icer system and add additional storage.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion,
I think it's important to call out, I mean, how this is probably long-term going to create some savings, especially on our salt, which,
and efficiency.
Yeah.
Both.
exactly.
So, I know JP spent a lot of time with us explaining this whole process and the logistics of it. It's going to give us the opportunity to mix our own in-house with more of a concentrate added to brine. We're able to store more. The delivery has to be of a certain amount, and the current storage that we have right now would take us down to 0 for us to be able to economically get that delivery. So we're going to beef that up a little bit.
Correct.
We're going to change up, because we're able to do this, how we apply it. So it's a little bit better mixture, which means we may not have to plow as later on. Did I say that all right?
Or salt as many,
Yeah.
back-to-back rounds. So
Yeah.
we're hoping with the residual, like I mentioned, it's the cost savings on salt, it's going to be there, maybe over
Yeah.
the 1 to 3 year period. But I think the biggest cost savings we're going to see is the time, as you mentioned, as far as, back-to-back saltings, or when it's time to plow, we melt the centers, get them black, and then we're only 2 passing, which cuts down our plow time in half.
Yeah.
So.
Saves on overtime.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a
Yeah,
savings all the way
just-
around. It's a small investment, but I think the ROI is huge.
And we're not relying on somebody else in the time of crisis, where if we get a storm, boom, 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 and now we're depleted,
Correct,
so is everybody else.
correct,
And now we're, competing to be able to get those deliveries.
correct. And just to mention with that beet hate has become so popular
Yeah.
that it used to be like a 24 to 48 hour turn. You order to deliver, but it's being so popular and it's going more
Sure.
out west, Minnesota, and that those times have certainly increased. So, like you said, more storage, better application rate, and and if you see the attached there, we actually got a quote from a company. It's the last there. It was about 60,000. So we'll be in the 20 range to be.
So
able to
us doing it in-house, we're saving over 50%.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. Good job, JP.
Thank you. That concludes road.
Thanks. That takes us to zoning, Mr. Ferrara.
Thank you, sir. The first item on the agenda is a monthly report.
Plenty of ribbon.
A lot of
cuttings.
ribbon cuttings. That's good. Okay, any special questions for Tom? See him afterwards. Number 2.
Item number 2 is a resolution to declare items A and B as nuisance abatements.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to declare items A through D as abatement pays.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And item number 4 is a resolution to refund the following companies for overpayment of sign permits totaling in the amount of $1,800 from the following fund.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's all for zoning.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Nothing from the law director, no communications.
The Parks Department.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's a great big list there I should have picked up on. Should have known better. That takes us to parks, Mr. Steinberg.
Thanks. Item number 1 is the monthly report.
We've been busy in the parks.
Certainly have.
Got some great things going on, good attendance. Any specific questions for Rob? See him later. Number 2.
Thank you. Is a resolution to approve payment to Aris Company for Porta Johns at the amphitheater.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a resolution to approve payment to Ganley Chevrolet of Aurora LLC for a new pickup truck.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a resolution to approve payment to Terry's Truck and Trailer for equipment for snow plow for the new truck.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 5 is a resolution to approve payment to WKG Enterprises LLC for amphitheater planning and website updates.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 6 is a resolution to approve payment to a cut above tree service for tree removal at Veterans Park.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 7 is a resolution to approve payment to Northern Mobile Electric for a light bar and taillights for the new park truck.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
That concludes parks.
Thanks, Rob. Now that takes us to nothing from the law director, no communications. That brings us to the portion of our meeting of public speaks. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board at this time, just raise your hand. I'll address you, and then if you give your name and address to our fiscal officer, then you can speak. You can come to the podium. You can speak from back there. However you feel comfortable, it's fine. So is there anybody that wishes to address the board? Sir.
Say my name.
Yes, over here.
To you?
Yeah.
Scott Feldman, 7824 Hampton Circle, Northwest North Canton, 44720.
Thank you.
So I know a couple of you. Eric, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Buddy. I was thinking on the way over here what exactly to say. Why I'm here tonight is we had an accident in our neighborhood on Labor Day at about 10:10 in the morning. And unfortunately, I was the one who witnessed it coming this way when the bus was coming this way. It happened right in front of me. And I saw a little 8-year-old boy hit by a car. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably one of the worst weeks of my life. I even to this day, it's just continually pops up in my mind. And what we saw as neighbors was just absolutely heartbreaking. And if anybody here has kids, and you can imagine putting yourself in the parents' shoes. But this little boy just got absolutely blasted, pounded. I mean, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And the guy who hit him, I think we all know. Obviously, he left the scene. He ran. When this poor boy was laying on the pavement, and I ran over to him. The
the pool of blood that was underneath this boy, I mean, we thought he died right there. That's the kind of impact that, we witnessed. And I gave a written statement, and I wanted to make sure that the sheriff knows this is not a gripe session to the sheriff. It's more about the speed and what is going on. I would like to applaud your officers for what they did. It was a panic situation. It was a very, very bad scene. A lot of sheriff deputies showed up. The ambulance, I think, took maybe 5 minutes to get there. Seemed like 55 minutes, but the sheriffs did a great job. So you guys need to know that. They really did. They took control of the scene. There's a lot of voices throwing a lot of things at a lot of guys that day because people are just frustrated about the speed. So I'm not going to, continue to go on and on and on. I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of what is going on in that neighborhood. Breton, we've been back there for 18 years. It's turned into a speedway. It really has, and no pun intended. It's by the speedway. It's just that day, I think, is finally what did it for me. It's just, again, witnessing this, and this little boy's got a long road ahead. I contacted the repository. I told them, you guys got to get on this and do an article. And once they started peeling back the layers, they realized that this is a pretty bad deal. I went to visit the boy. We had a prayer vigil for him at the crash scene Saturday. He's got a long road ahead of him, but thank God he's out of death's door. And I just want to make sure that you guys know there's something that needs to be done. The radar guns are great. I used to be a police officer back in the early 90s in Jackson Township, so I understand all about speed and how it goes. I know there's a lot of cul-de-sacs back there, but something needs to be done to avoid, something like this happening again, because this boy, he could have easily been killed. I'm surprised he was not, to be quite honest with you. So I just wanted to voice my concern, my opinion, my voice. I vote for all Plain Township levies, police, fire. My parents were very active in Rotary for many years. You guys probably know my parents. We've been here most of my adult life, and we love the community. So, but I just, again, want to make sure we're driving home what happened, and for somebody please to help do something in that area. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
See if
I'm
anybody else wants to comment
assuming,
before we-
is everybody else here for that same issue? Maybe whoever wants to speak, we just let everybody speak, and then it would be a little easier to address everybody at once. And is that okay with you guys?
Yeah,
Sure. Okay. So
Scott covered a lot of different areas there.
And that's kind of why I'm doing this, because I'm guessing we're going to hear maybe in a little different tone or a little different messaging, but we're probably going to hear the same thing. Speed is an issue. We want to look at what our alternatives are, the concerns of the residents, all those issues, but we want to give everybody a chance to speak to that. So is there anybody else?
What can we do to help the police department, to the street department? What can we do to work with you guys to get this slowed down? What can we do?
we can certainly talk to
Yeah.
them. I think once we get everybody's comments, because there's some legal opinions and so forth. I will tell you, I know the one thing that's been, just put up stop signs. Stop signs are not a speed control mechanism. We've dealt with that in a number of different environments. They simply control traffic flow, and you may go, oh, well, if it's still stop and go, but it's not as easily said as done. So I think John and I can dive into that a little more once we've got everybody else's.
And we are, and again, he's 100% right, but we're looking at some other solutions from a stop sign standpoint. So,
Speed tables.
unfortunately, that means that we have to put them up, and then we have to take them down during plowing season, because you can't lift a plow up to go to the next edge to start plowing again. So it makes it extremely difficult to plow. And it would be almost impossible, because those have to be stabilized in some way, which means we're permanently getting into the roadway. And then unfortunately, when you take those down, water gets into those holes if we don't get them all filled, and then it starts freezing and cracking. So speed tables sound like the solution to everything. But I think we might have, on that particular street, we might have at least some kind of fix that will hold some of that speed down. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. So anything else? Anybody else want to address the issues?
I'd just like to add, it's probably not even necessarily the speed. Obviously, we get the speeders, but I think according to the police report, the guy wasn't even speeding, and that kid almost died.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a whole situation. There's a lot of blind spots. There's huge mailboxes for the condos. There's trees. There's fences. I mean, we're not going to stop kids being kids. Unfortunately, we can't wrap them in bubble wrap either. But just something. If they chase a ball into the road, it shouldn't be a death sentence, or you're going to be in the ICU.
And can you give your name and address
Yeah.
to our fiscal officer, please?
Sure. Dan Holdsworth. I'm at 7947 Chatham, Northwest 44720.
Thank you.
We would all agree with that logic. So let's talk a little bit about the possibility of a stop sign, because I think that's been the biggest thing that's being kicked around. And I'll give you a little history of stop sign placement in Ohio. And there used to be this standard that said, because somebody from a neighborhood, and unfortunately, how we are guided and held to the responsibility of signage placement and then the enforcement of that signage placement. We have to do that officially by resolution. So we can't just target a place and say, let's put a stop sign up there. We just can't arbitrarily do that. The first thing we have to do is have the professionals evaluate that intersection and the need for it. And they're going to look at stats and statistics. I mean, that's how they do everything. They're going to check accident records. They're going to see, what is site obstruction a problem here? Is there all those things? And for many, many, many years, that's how we were guided to do stop sign placement. So like Scott started to say, for many years, we had absolutely no control in being able to put up a four-way stop, even though we believed in ourselves that one should be there, if for nothing else, but to simply provide what you just talked about. And that is, we can't put a stop sign, a four-way stop sign up to say we're doing this because we want to control speed. But what we can do, based on what we've researched so far and the information that we got back, is that we can take all the factors. And I'm guessing, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm okay with that because it's my thought process that I want to get out there. I'm guessing what helps us is even when we get citizens from that specific neighborhood that says, hey, we're kind of in favor of getting that type of thing done. Is that fair to say, Eric?
Yeah.
So just by starting this process is probably a good thing. Okay.
Sorry, just a quick add. We have a petition too that I think we have about 90 signatures so far. If we need to get more, I'm sure all of us will walk around the entire neighborhood if we need to.
Honestly, I would tell you at this point, I mean, even just sharing what you have, it's still going to come down to what the Ohio Revised Code, Uniform Traffic Control, where essentially through the county engineer's office, they're the professional opinion that's going to come back. They do this consistent. There's everything from road widths, for how close vehicles are in passing, to degree of angle, to density of housing, to how close the intersections are. It's honestly, it's mind-boggling at some points where you're like, there's why does this have to be this complex? But it's the extent that they go to, and then we're bound by their decision. So honestly, Scott and I were chatting at the gym, was it Monday about this, and I hope I don't come across as cold at any point, because for context, I was a hit and run victim. The day I turned 16, got my temporary driving permit out in Paris. I was riding my brother's mountain bike over to the neighbor's farm, somebody hit me from behind, hit and run. I had asphalt buried in the side of my face, down my arm, my rib cage, so I'm more than sensitive to this for context. The reality is, if John, any board makeup of whether it's a past board, a current board, or a future board, if you go to usurp and circumvent those laws and rules, we can potentially become liable ourselves. And no offense, I'm not opening myself up to any personal assets. That's not to shirk, addressing a serious matter. But as I had told Scott Monday while we were chatting, doing cardio, some of this is going to take us a little bit of time. To John's point, we're absolutely committed to seeing through it. And I think one of those examples that had talked through, honestly, the light at the intersection of Breton and Cleveland Avenue. For years that was asked, and I know from pulling in and out of there, getting gas as well. And honestly, the boards historically have continued to go back and push the county engineer. And it's not that they've shifted the lens in which they've looked through. It's like, hey, we think some variables have changed here. And you know what? We go out, they get measured, and they compile that. And honestly, traffic flows and counts and all that did change to where they could justify a traffic light, because honestly, it's sad to say, traffic lights aren't cheap. They're anywhere from 150 to 225,000 to put up by the time you're setting poles, running electric, the actual lights. It took us a while. So point being, even with this, I would tell you one of the things for the speed table is just building off of John. I would never be in favor of it outside of statistically what we've seen, because it starts a slippery slope and everybody's going, I want them in my neighborhood too. And the reality is, it becomes very subjective, very, very quick on where those go. So outside of the cost and the road maintenance and the logistical coordination, there are some things that studies would actually show. Even the painting of road tables is as effective as an actual physical road table themselves. But for us to get the legal opinion through the engineer's office, I mean, there's little things like, let's face it, the speed sign back there. We've actually talked about those before, so please don't think, oh, we've come in and all of a sudden they've bought them. It's been something we've tried to look at. Those speed signs certainly cause a short-term change in habits. They don't create long-term ones. In fact, when those things are around too long, then you get more folks trying to challenge me like, I wonder how quick I can get up to 25 or 35 or 45. So what the engineer is going to come back to us with will be, hey, you do have safety issues here to where you can put stop signs at these points. You can't make this a four-way, but you can put them at these 2 points. They may come back and say, hey, you can change the speed limit by X, which through there, because that's 20, is that 25 through there, right? It's posted 20.
Yeah.
So realistically, it's not going to be able to be posted any lower than 25.
I have a question. Unfortunately, that day, it was like Zoe and I were talking about on the scene, no one's Ring doorbell caught it. And that stinks, okay? You caught how fast and what this gentleman did. My question is, and I maybe this is a silly question to ask, but today's technology and where we are there, like for example, right now the speed zones are there and they flash, when somebody goes over and all that. Do we have access to cameras to literally ticket people? Is that going to be coming up on? I mean, because if that's the case, every neighborhood's going to want these. Are we anywhere near that as a society, technology-wise, in Plain Township to have stationary cameras?
The problem is the revised code doesn't allow for us to enforce that way unless we have a dedicated officer there. It's silly, because that would seem to be the whole point of the traffic camera. But the way the code reads, we don't have the ability.
You got on the highway over the bridges, because.
Well, and I don't want to say too much, but if I got one of those, I would certainly contest it pursuant to what the code says. I don't know that those are, I won't put our sheriff on the spot on that one, but I don't see those as being legal pursuant to what I've read in the code.
I understand totally. I'm just thinking, think out loud. And, so a death doesn't happen next.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So in this particular case, we have like 3 more places in the township that are somewhat similar to this. That's why we're going to, if you would have come 2 years ago, I can honestly tell you, even the thought of putting a 4-way stop up somewhere, I would have said it's absolutely impossible. But we're seeing residential neighborhood mentality change a little bit with the people that we have to seek out to get the permission to be able to start that process. And we're seeing that change a little bit. So I'm optimistic about it myself because our road superintendent, highway superintendent has done a lot of research. Matter of fact, he just printed off a bunch of stuff today for me that I'm going to peruse through. And it's all over the page. But nowhere do I see it anywhere that we can do a 4-way stop to slow speed down.
Correct, yeah.
There are other things that we can look at. And I think we could be, for me, and that's just me talking, but I would never move forward to do a 4-way stop without us following the right channels and using the right language that allows us all on the same page as to why we're doing it. But in addition to that, making sure that the neighbors in that neighborhood want it. Because believe it or not, we just, about 3 months ago, we had a citizen complain because his stop sign was put up by his house. And that just, it was the very first 4-way stop that we created under this new process, and we did go through that process. The county came out, evaluated it, but we did it because of a site obstruction. It was on a fairly sharp curve. So we were able to pull that off, but 2 years ago, we'd have never been able to do that. So for me, that would be one of the things. And again, I'm just one person, and I'm speaking from a standpoint that it bothers me sometimes when I think about residential neighborhoods and the state putting their philosophies of how they want traffic to keep moving, but it's a freaking residential neighborhood. What do you think these people are all going to try to evacuate because of a hurricane or a flood? Or no, they're in residential neighborhoods. There's a reason why it's 25 miles an hour and those types of things. So for me, it would just be one more tool. But again, enforcement is about the only method that you could actually get people arrested. But I think there's some things that we can do. I think we need to pursue that, which we already have, by the way, but that could be one solution. And I'll back up a little bit to say, for me, even though a petition isn't official, just for me, at least that says it's not 1 or 2 people that just want this. It's the whole neighborhood that wants this. So for me, that would take more of evidence for me to be able to say, hey, if we can do something there and they're at least satisfied with the attempts that we can legally make, then let's do that. Because, quite honestly, it's our obligation to try to do whatever we can, short of having a cop on every street.
Which I would, and to that point, I'd tell you, if you've got 90 right now, I'd tell you to submit it today. A couple things. One, it's furthermore on the record because it is a public record. So if somebody goes, well, the press, for example, goes, well, what level of inquiries have you had about stop signs or anything up here? We're going to have to produce that documentation outside of you being on the record here. So certainly important from that aspect. I do know, and I may be a little off of my stats, but Scott and I were talking about this again. Sadly, most speeders live within less than a mile from the distance, and it comes down to the whole comfort. And I think that's evident in the individual who did this and was trying to hide the situation. And listen, I can empathize with the pain again because though it's been 30 years, hit and run victim. I told Scott when we were at the gym, and we don't see each other at the gym all that often, but I said if the individual that hit and hit me 30 years ago, came forward and said something, I'd probably still knock them out today. Sorry, no premeditated assault here, but I would because
Is that on
it's,
the record?
yeah, it is on the record. It's because it's absolutely
Yeah.
despicable, regardless of whether adult or child. But it's even worse when it's a child. So
If we see consistent offenders that live in that neighborhood, do we need to get license plate numbers? Do we need to give colors, and does it matter?
Carver,
Would it matter?
how would that work?
How would you reckon?
I mean, I know where they live. and
We can see them that they're
I just want
pretty
them to
much
be
all the time.
arrested. I do.
What I could say to that effect, I
She
mean,
does. She
certainly-
stands out there with a camera.
I do. I take pictures because I'm trying to get their license.
But there's people that we see every day going through there, you know, at
But right
55.
now that you have the
And they live in the
speed,
neighborhood.
you have the speed monitors up.
Yeah.
There is a guy that pulled like right up to our driveway, which that accident with the little boy happened right there across from our driveway. He did. It's like he saw that, and then he went from whatever miles he was going, like 30 some, and he just wanted to see how fast he
Yep.
could go. And I didn't get the picture. I tried to push the button, hit the wrong button. He was at 61 by the time he got to Chatham, and I'm like, shit. Like if the cop was there then, that would have been great, you know. But I mean, there's people that'll tempt it, you know, just see.
Yeah. Captain Carver, what do you have to say, or what input can you give to all of that?
So what I can tell you, I mean, certainly if you know there's somebody that's a repeat offender, you can take pictures and we can go have conversations with those people. We can't take enforcement action based upon that. You know, we have to physically be there, utilizing your radar, LiDAR, those kind of things to be able to take enforcement action. But by all means, you have that neighbor that you know is doing it all the time, you know, certain time of day, and you provide that, we know to watch that time of day, or you know, to go and knock on their door and have a personal conversation with them. We can do that. I can tell you, my 19 years at the sheriff's office, Brett has kind of always been on our radar, and you know, just about everybody I've ever stopped up there has been a resident in that area. I've, you know, followed people into their driveway and pulled them over in their driveway up in that neighborhood. And so it's unfortunate, and as this gentleman mentioned, speed wasn't necessarily a factor in this particular accident, but I think it kind of mobilized everybody. And we're trying to do extra enforcement out there. We're trying to get traffic stops in. I can tell you, when the sheriff got these speed signs, the very first place I put one when it was brand new was up on Brett.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do what we can, and I know the trustees are going to do everything they can to try to address the concerns. And some of it comes down to people taking responsibility for their own actions, just being good citizens in that neighborhood.
If we call in at a certain time of the morning or whatever that's really bad, I mean, is that, would they send an officer out at that time? Like 4:30 in the morning is really bad.
4:30 a.m.
In the morning.
Yeah.
Whoa. I was gonna say, if it was typical hour, and Ryan, you keep me us here, but if you would have told us it's typical business hours, 7 to 9 or 3 to 5, 4 to 6, I'm gonna tell you, we could tax you till you're blue in the face. There still wouldn't be enough personnel resources and that's part of, you know, some of the studies. This doesn't necessarily reflect our typical traffic reports, but this is an example of what comes from the speed sign. It will tell times, speeds, average speed and so forth. And, you know, whether it's this report or something similar, when we've pulled the speed trailer, those reports go to the sheriff so they can take a look and go, okay, when Bill's overseeing the guys for one of the shifts, hey, when things are slow, sit here, run some extra patrol. It absolutely helps them be more intentional. And the challenge is, you know, for Ryan and Bill and the others, okay, they're certainly going to hit it hard for a couple weeks, and then you're going to go, well, I never see them back up. Trust me, they're out and about, but the issues exist, and it's not just Plain Township. Whether you want to go North Canton, Louisville, Columbus, wherever, just because people get way too comfortable and arrogant, whether it's taking an intersection corner sharp because, well, there's nothing ever, you know, coming, the worst violators are, you know, there. But our reports outside of the sheriff using them, if you ever see a speed trailer out there, we can produce typically a copy of that report, because trust me, we don't necessarily question the fact that folks are going over the speed limit, but there's some times where, without visuals, I'm certain they had to at least be going 50 miles. We take a look at the speed report, and it's like, okay, there's some, they were 30, 35, maybe 40. Is it over the speed limit? Yes, it is. Not denying that, but our typical average ability to accurately estimate speed is far off compared to, you know, what law enforcement has to. But you know, these reports certainly help substantiate some of the actions and steps.
And time of the day does help them. And we have, that's pretty consistent all over the whole township. I can just about guarantee you, when on the opposite side, on the west side, when school is open over there, I can guarantee you the students are they're gonna fly down all those streets. They're running late, they're trying to get there, but it's only gonna be either in the morning or later on in the evening. After that, there's no traffic at all, hardly. So that's when they try to focus on those patrols as well. So, yeah, if you do have a specific time, that's good information for them. Anything else that anybody wants to address the board? Well, we're going to keep working on this. We're going to discuss this. We are going to do a study.
I think it's fair just to offer, though. I mean, typically the county engineer's professional opinion, it'll take a couple weeks.
It's an
get that
in-depth
just based on
process.
where they're at.
Yeah.
So it's not like we can tell you, hey, by Friday we'll have that opinion, or I just want to set some realistic expectations. So again, whether you want to call in or leave your contact information behind to where we can reach out for you, I just want to, again, frame that as realistic. So it's like,
it's not going to happen overnight.
Are they getting anything done? What are they doing?
And then I forgot, is there a fee for that, JP?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So,
Not that I'm aware of.
but when they do a speed study, we get one free one a year, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, we get one free one. So we got to kind of target that as best we can.
Well,
But even our
this is a professional opinion.
That's
I
it's
think if we
different.
have,
I'm just saying, I
Yep.
couldn't remember
Yeah, the speed
if we had a
one,
fee for that when they did that over.
They get a grant for it. I think it's to do, if you wanted to lower a speed limit and they do the speed study on that, I know it's several $1,000s.
I think, again, which goes to show they're offering this stuff up because it's becoming more of a reality now in neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And you've already requested that professional
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, I've already talked to
Yeah.
the traffic engineer, so, yeah, he's well aware of it, and he's gonna get the ball rolling, so.
And I mean, that's Brian Cole out at the county engineer. I know
Is it
Brian.
Department of Transportation's involved in our street there? I mean, do you have to go through them?
Stark County Engineers,
Only Stark County?
Yeah.
Stark County.
But I mean, again, their rules come from the Ohio
ODOT.
Revised Code,
Yeah.
ODOT, Uniform Traffic Control. So there's ultimately some linkage there.
Anything else? We hear you. We're going to take a look at this because, again, it's not just unique to that particular street. So I think we're going to see other things that are going to help us throughout the township.
And if you want to drop off that petition,
Yeah.
you can drop it off here.
It's all digital right now, so someone else
Okay.
started it, but I'll get it and submit it to.
Okay.
I mean, and honestly, even if it's digital, I mean, it can be.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah,
can
it
be
can be
emailed in.
digital.
You know,
Yeah.
so if it saves
We'll
you
accept
time,
it in
even
email.
if you just got call in and say, who do I email this to?
Okay, thank you. That then takes us to concerns of trustees. Scott, you got two things?
Yeah, two things. I want to again go on the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Saturday, I appreciate everything that the departments did. JP, from literally your guys coming up with some of those rock ideas is the backdrop. Parks on prepping it, fire as well. I mean, we had a beautiful crowd there. I think everybody saw that there was some emotion in that crowd. So I applaud you all. I mean, not just because of the, I know every day the teams are doing great work, but the comments that I've got from there was two gentlemen who were from up by the lake were down. They video recorded that entire time. They were watching and they showed up early, just watching a little bit of setup and so forth. they're trying to emulate something that we did, and Ken Noon had spoke, like, you need to come down to Plain Township. They're doing this right, and they're doing it at a reasonable scale. So it speaks volumes again to that we've got other communities looking at us and how we're doing those things. So again, just a huge thank you to you guys and your teams. Don't take it lightly. It's appreciated. Second item I had was Grace Baptist. Actually, the pastor lives up in my neighborhood. He had approached me about a week or so ago while I was out knocking doors and while I was grabbing an ice cream cone down at Country Cone. I saw they had these little cards out. Simply want to note, they've got a community open house October 14th.
That's right.
From 1 to 3. It's to showcase their new addition. So I told them no different than we do with businesses, even though, hey, as a place of worship, we'll convey that. So
They have a big sign out now.
yeah. So that was all I had.
Okay, anything else? All right, that takes us to the approval of the minutes for the meeting of August 22nd, and I will move for their approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. And that takes us
To
to
a
a
motion to adjourn at 6:52.
second. Been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.